And, she said, people just don't.
About peace and gender equity in particular today. So go ahead and drop a note into the chat. Tell us where you're joining from, and we look forward to the conversations that we'll have together.
Patty, while they're doing that, how about we play a really awesome inspirational video from that Daniel Marnie Elkins put together called She is a Lion. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All around the world, there are women who lead, women who serve, women who teach, women who inspire, women who believe. Women can do anything because nothing is out of reach. When you're the queen of the jungle, an ambassador for peace, a global lion leader, your roar will never cease. You stand for hope and unity, bright as the rising sun, a guiding light for those in need. In service we are one. You lead with grace and courage, your heart forever true, and I will in all who hear your call. The world believes in you. She is a lion, hear her roar. She is a leader, watch her soar. She is a lion, hear her roar. She is a leader, watch her soar. She is a lion, hear her roar. She's a leader, watch her soar. All around the world, there are women who lead, women who serve, women who teach, women who inspire, women who believe. Women can do anything because nothing is out of reach. When you're the queen of the jungle, an ambassador for peace, a global lion leader, your roar will never cease. You stand for hope and unity, bright as the rising sun, a guiding light for those in need. In service we are one. You lead with grace and courage, your heart forever true, a vital in all who hear your call. The world believes in you. She is a lion, hear her roar. She is a leader, watch her soar. She is a leader, watch her soar.
Well, welcome to our global conversation about peace, focused today on gender equity. Today's session is all about equity. After all, how can we have harmony, respect for all human beings, by all human beings, without equity? We decided to focus our energies and our thoughts on this topic during March. International Women's Day is celebrated in March, and it should be a part of our conversation. But even so, we know that gender equity is not achieved in all areas of our society, nor all aspects of our lives. So we asked, have we achieved equity in access to education? In many areas, but not all. So we need to work on that. Have we achieved equity in access to leadership roles? In most areas, the answer may be not yet. Have we achieved equity in the workplace? I'm anxious to hear your discussions today on that topic. And have we achieved equity in the financial world? Are we making progress? Now, to get our discussion started, let me state clearly my belief, my position, that gender equity is not a women's issue. It's not a men's issue. It's a human rights issue for all of us, regardless of gender. That said, the solutions and the actions we take to protect or improve gender equity must be taken by all of us. So let's begin by talking about gender equity in finance. So access to financial resources, whether through fair wages, business opportunities, or financial literacy. This is a cornerstone to true equity. And yet we know that in many parts of the world, women and marginalized groups still face significant barriers when it comes to financial independence and security. Do women, do all of us, have the ability to make financial decisions within their own family? Do women have access to capital to start and grow businesses? Are financial decisions and leadership roles inclusive of diverse voices? We were talking about this and I thought, oh, I should share my own story. When I began my career as an employed, securing my career, teacher with an ongoing contract, and I knew I had a secure income. When I went to the bank to get my first loan, just to buy a new car to get to work, I was not allowed to take out a loan unless I had a father or a husband to sign the loan with me. That may sound unheard of to many of you, but in my lifetime, even in my home country, that was true. Now, we've come a long way, and that's no longer true. A woman can do that financial negotiation with a lender on her own. But that is a right, not a privilege, a right to equal access that has only come into being during my adult life. And I recognize how easily any of the things we take as rights could be taken away from us at the stroke of a pen with a change of legislation. And so we have to be cognizant of the rights and how we protect them, how we attain them, but then how we protect them. So we've seen progress, but we've also seen the gaps. And financial equity, it's not just about fairness, it's about empowerment. It's about economic stability. It's about the ability to build a better future for individuals, for our families, and for our entire communities. And I share that story just to remind all of us that it's something we cannot take for granted. That challenge remains a reality. And closely related to financial equity is equity in the workplace, an area where disparities still persist. So let's look at some of the numbers. According to the World Bank's Women, Business and Law 2024 data, women earn just 77 cents for every dollar earned by men. And that's a global conversion. The International Labor Organization reports that less than 50%, less than half, of working age women around the world are employed. And when we look at leadership, only 36% of women hold senior or middle management positions, and many of those roles are in the traditionally female-dominated sectors. So these statistics are more than just numbers. They tell a story of unequal access, missed opportunities, and untapped potential. To bring these figures to life, I want to introduce Renate Kastrowsky-Kraft from Germany, who will share her personal experience navigating the workplace compared to that of her daughter. Renate is currently on a flight home after attending a Lions convention in the United Kingdom. So she's sharing her experience with us via a recorded message. Let's listen to her story.
Hi, I'm Renate Kastrowsky-Kraft from Germany. Let's talk about changes at the workplace regarding gender equality from my own experience. Comparing my career with my daughter's professional life, it definitely changed. There is less gender inequality today than 30, 40 years ago. There are more chances and choices for women now. With 2 kids only 50 months apart, no existing or affordable daycare system, only half-day nursery and elementary school, and no after-school programs, I had to choose to be a stay-home mom. In the 80s and 90s, we said it takes 2 to have a successful, good career. My husband had one with my support. 30 years later, my daughter and son-in-law can both build a successful professional life and share parental work for their 2 children. Society, employers included, supporting that. There are child benefit, parental allowance, and parental leave up to the first 3 years of the infant's life in place, legally regulated. What also helped towards gender equality is the realization and then action to improve negotiation skills of women when it comes to negotiate salary and promotions, and building a support system through networking and mentoring from woman to woman, women to women. But we have to realize, reason behind all this action is, among other things, that women are desperately needed for the labor market. In every industry, in every work field, there is a shortage of skilled workers. But I hope that over the last few decades, we raised enough awareness that not only at the workplace, everybody realize that they benefit from gender equality.
I'm really glad that and thankful that Renate took the time to share her story and her daughter's story. And what I'd like us to take away from that is not only the importance of inclusion in all these workplaces and the right, as she said, like to negotiate salaries and to apply for promotions, those sorts of things in a workplace, but the hope that comes from knowing the progress we can make in one generation, and we can see progress. And so that gives me so much hope for what we can do in each of your countries, your areas, and your workplaces. And as we think about that brief overview of the importance of financial and workplace equity, now I want to just switch gears to women's health and well-being, the very heart of gender equity. You know, many of you on this call today may be Lions, your friends, your advocates for equity. And if we're serious about achieving true gender equity, we must recognize that women's health and well-being are at the core of this conversation. Without access to quality health care and safe environments and the support needed to thrive, how can we expect women and girls to reach their full potential, to contribute fully to society, and to lead with confidence? When women face barriers to health care, whether in maternal health, mental health, reproductive rights, or access to medical services, those barriers don't affect just them. They affect families, workplaces, communities they affect the economies. So we cannot talk about equity in education, finance, and leadership without talking about health. Because a world where women are healthy is a world where women can lead, innovate, and create change. And to learn more, Leo Ivy, please share your thoughts on how health and well-being shape the path to gender equity.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you guys are having a lovely, lovely day. My name is Leo Ivy. I come from Kenya, and I am here to share a little bit on what I think, or rather what we are doing on gender equity. So first and foremost, when you speak about gender equity, what are we talking about? We are referring to fairness in opportunities, resources, and treatment for people of all genders. It's not gender equality. Equality is like, for example, let's say 5 feet tall and someone else is 7 feet tall, and all of us need to hold something that is 7 feet tall on a roof. That means I can't be able to do that even if we are provided with equal opportunities. What we need is equity, just trying to balance things out. And this is why gender equity is important for peace, because this conversation is about peace. Number one, inclusive decision making. Peace processes are more sustainable and effective when both women and men and marginalized communities are brought together to make decisions. And then number two, when we do gender equity, or rather involve people when it comes to decision making, we reduce violence and discrimination. And then the other reason is economic and social stability. Then we have stronger communities. This is why gender equity is important. And so how is our club here in Kenya making sure that we have gender equity? Number one, we make sure there is equal access to education through advocacy for both boys and girls. We are not just advocating for education for girls only, it's also for the boys. Number two, breaking cycles of poverty through providing menstrual health products for girls. A lot of girls tend to not go to school or have access to quality education simply because they spend 3 to 7 days in a week at home because they do not have period products. We are making sure that is not the case by providing menstrual products. And then number three, reducing early marriages through advocacy and creating awareness in the affected areas. A lot of girls do not get an opportunity to be educated and to be empowered because as soon as they hit teenagehood, they are taken to be somebody's wife, even as early as the ages of 11 and 12. We have seen that happen. Then number four, boosting leadership by encouraging girls and women to take up leadership opportunities, both in our clubs and beyond. Here's the one thing that we believe in. If we do not empower our girls and give them a chance to lead, then we should not be expecting other people to do so. In your clubs, are you encouraging girls and women to run for positions? Are you supporting them? Are you encouraging them? Because most of the times these leadership positions are normally given to the men. But we need to change that starting from our clubs. Then number five, we have community engagements to break the stigma surrounding menstruation. For a very long time, periods have always been considered a taboo topic. And it's only something that is discussed by women and girls in very harsh tones and in their small circles. It's never an open conversation. To make sure that we are bridging the gap and promoting gender equity, we bring the communities together. Fathers, boys, boyfriends, everyone is involved in having a conversation on menstrual equity and access to menstrual products. And then, so how are Lions and Leos, how can you help in your local community? Just like what we do here in Kenya. Number one, raising awareness on menstrual health. In your club, you can just create awareness on menstrual health. And sometimes that's putting up a social media post on the same, or having a conversation in one of your meetings about the same thing. And then number two, we have providing period products and supplements in schools and communities. In that local school that you volunteer, that children's home that you visit very often, that community center, do you make sure they have period products? Or because most of the guys give food, but we forget that period products are a basic need. So maybe also try and have a few period products for those particular people. And then there is advocacy for policy changes. As Dr. Patti mentioned, policies shape a lot of our lives. without our knowledge and with our knowledge. So it is very important for us to be in the middle of policy advocacy and change. That way, we will be able to put our voices out there. And when these policies are being made, chances are they're going to listen to us and add our voices there. And hopefully the policies will be in our favor and not against us. And then finally, and this is very, very important, engagement and voice. Gone are the days whereby periods or menstruation is just a conversation for girls and women. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's a lot to absorb, Ivy, but thank you so very much for being with us and sharing your thoughts on this. And I mean, it really draws out for me the interconnectedness of access to things as essential as menstrual products, and then the connection to financial equity. You know, do these young women, you know, have access, but it's limited by financial inequality. You've called out as well the importance of educating our entire society. It's not enough for girls to understand about menstrual health and well-being, or for women to understand about maternal health and well-being. You know, that interconnects with how boys, boyfriends, fathers, brothers, how everyone addresses and supports a girl's needs.
Absolutely, yes.
You know, I wanna thank you for being a voice for gender equity. Your work is expanding far beyond your home in Kenya. And there's so many others who are doing good work in this area. I want to give a shout out to the volunteers in the Chicago Windy City Lions, who for more than 10 years have been having every year period parties to collect menstrual products, which they distribute to those in need in the Chicago area. You know, the Leos in Mumbai, who created a fantastic experience for young men, boyfriends, brothers, to experience what menstrual cramps feel like through hooking them up to 10. Oh yeah, it was amazing. There are so many things we can do to demystify, destigmatize women's health issues. So thank you for being a spokesperson. You know, we need leaders willing to do this. And I'm thrilled to invite one of our global leaders to join me to address the topic of women in leadership roles. And do we have equity in access to leadership opportunities? You know, we have on the call with us today past international director, member of our global board of directors, and currently having been reappointed to the International Board of Lions International. Let's welcome Sangeeta Jatia. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for taking some family time to do this with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to join you today.
Oh, I'm glad that your busy schedule allowed.
I just made it home.
We were just together at Lions Day at the United Nations in New York this past week. But Sangeeta, you are a respected woman leader who's been at the highest levels of Lions International as an international director. But what challenges did you face on your journey to this position, and how did you overcome them?
It was definitely a rough ride. And I gave up so many times. Because when we joined, there were more men than there were women. And every time you had to prove yourself. You had to do more than was necessary. And I think even I made a lot of mistakes. I tried to emulate them rather than be myself. And peace came when I actually started being myself. I even took to wearing jackets all the time. I became very aggressive in whatever I had to say. But then when I found my own self, I think that's when it all changed. And that's when I realized that, yes, we've got to celebrate our differences. I can't be like the other sex, but I can definitely make myself stronger just the way I am. I think that's what helped. And that's what I would think we should be doing. That's my learning from my mistakes.
Oh, thank you for sharing. And what great advice. Unless we can be who we are, we're not adding our true voice to the conversations. And that's critical. Now, my second question for you today. How do you think women in leadership positions, having attained those leadership positions, can challenge gender inequity?
We need to pave the way. We need to make the way. And sometimes we also have to actually make it easy for those who are coming. We probably, Dr. Patti, you and myself, and you were the first few coming in from our constitutional areas, had a tough time. But I think the next generation needs to have it easier. We normally have a confidence deficit. I think that's what we need to work on. How do we build up our confidence? Believe that we are less than anybody, but we don't want to put our hand up. We don't want to step up. We won't want to speak up. We are scared. I wish we could overcome this. And I think that's going to be our job. How can we believe in them? Somebody believed in me, and that's why I'm here today. And I hope and I trust and I pray I can do the same for others.
What a great way to pay it forward and to ensure that the woman's voice or the gender equity we need in our board's voice can be sustained, because each of us fulfills a role for a brief period of time, and we need to create a future legacy of gender equity in our global voice. Now, we have numerous allies in our quest for equity for women. And what would you encourage our allies to do to promote progress in gender equity in leadership roles?
I think as we move in this organization, especially, we need to make sure that every committee, every small team that we build has to have that equity. Sometimes you'll have to create an opportunity. I think that's the job of the leadership, because as of now, even, we don't see that balance. Maybe 10 years hence, we won't need this. But at this point of time, we've got to make sure that every team has that balance. If we can exhibit that, I believe everybody will start emulating it, and they'll start finding value in that. I think that's something that we need to really do in this organization. Give opportunities, allow them to take up leadership roles, give the new voices that platform. And now, as we just found out in our last board meeting, New Voices again becomes an official program, maybe something that's going to help us take this gender equity forward. It's not only about gender, but giving the young, the women, everybody a voice. And I think that's what we can do together.
Well, thank you so much. We cannot assume it will happen. We have to work with our allies to ensure that it happens. And thank you for being a leading voice for gender equity. Thank you so much, Sangeeta. All of us can do something. I think that's an important part of what I'm hearing today, is whether it's, my experience in North America, whether it's Renate in Europe, whether it's Ivy in Kenya, whether it's Sangeeta in India, all of us have the ability to influence what's happening today and make it better for tomorrow. And so, Jody, we're going to take time in the breakout rooms now. Can you just walk us through the plans?
I sure can. So we're going to do something a little different today, because we've got 4 key topics we're talking about today, and how we as Lions and Leos can truly make an impact. So we're going to send you into a randomly assigned breakout room where you'll either be talking about gender health, financial equity, workplace equity, or volunteer leadership equity. We have amazing moderators in to help the conversation along. And you're going to come back and we'll do a report out. It's going to be a great conversation, and we're excited to learn from you what you have to say. So you are going off to a breakout room for 30 minutes. We'll see you back after that. Here you go. So let's start with Anelia. Anelia, what did you all talk about?
In our breakout room, we discussed the gender health and the issues that we have seen. We had participants from few countries. My country is Bulgaria. We had also Canada, North Macedonia, undistricted Georgia from Tbilisi, Atlanta, Georgia, United States. What were the top 3 barriers or challenges that our participants mentioned to gender equity in gender health? In inequality due to education, mainly because it is in some countries it is a problem, and legislation is needed so that each of us to be heard and to know more about the access to health care. In many countries, someone else is making decisions for women and for us, how to treat themselves and what type of care they need. And we all agree that it all starts in the families. The equality is born there, because perception that boys are sometimes better than girls in the families is bringing that inequality later on. Universities need to give more information to young generation, to women, to inform people how to prevent illness or to take better care for themselves. In Canada, some difficulties to diagnosis were mentioned because more money and more funding is dedicated for cancer treatment for men, for example. This is a different attitude, which creates problems for women. In some professions and public policy, the public policy is again due to perception, offering specific professions and leadership roles that are more suitable to women than to men. For example, Andrea from North Macedonia mentioned one survey that demonstrated that women were considered more appropriate to work, for example, in the health ministry or for education or social policy, instead of other to be given the possibility to have other professions. Discrimination problems for women are existing in many countries, and there is lack of gender-sensitive health policies and representation.
Anelia, I'm going to cut you off because we got to get people out of here. It sounds like you guys had an awesome conversation. By the way, fair warning for the rest of the moderators reporting out. I'll change my background about 30 seconds left in 2 minutes, just to that lovely bright yellow it just was. Anelia, thank you for sharing. Excited to get the whole report back, and we'll be able to share it out with everyone, everything you guys discussed. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
I will put in the chat the rest.
Awesome, thank you. Alper, you're next, and my friend, I'm giving you 2 minutes, and I'll change it out in 1:30 to yellow. What did you guys talk about?
We talked about financial equity, and we had members from Lebanon, Canada, Ireland, France, Nepal, Australia, and Turkey. So we discussed that when it's a union job or a posted rate, women and men have same wages, but men still get leadership positions, even in city halls. And there is also problem when it comes to not just men and women, but also transgender men and transgender women. It is still a stigma, even among lions. And usually women have lower pay positions. And in some countries, on paper, I won't give country names, but on paper, everything is equal, everything is perfect, but in practice, it is not. So we have to also consider that. And also we learned that in Lions districts, most of our members have equal rights about everything. And they think that giving more confidence to women is needed if we want to have financial equity. Also, like Anila said, still traditional professions for genders are there, unfortunately. And not enough equality when it comes to childcare. They still think that women should be responsible for that. And also we learned that in one country, mothers cannot open a bank account for their kids. The father has the right to do that. And even the mother cannot pass the nationality to the kid, but the father can do that. So lastly, in general, we have less problems when it comes to lions, but um, as nationals, as people who live there, in practice, we face more problems in financial equity.
Wow, what a great conversation you all had as well. So many nuggets there, so many amazing takeaways for all of us from that conversation. Thank you for recapping, Albert. All right. Oops, your time was up. My timer just went off. All right, next up, Randy, you are up, my friend, and you're going to talk about equity in the workplace.
Yeah, I made a little, so just so everyone can follow along visually. So here's the countries that were represented in our group. So we had the United States, France, the British Isles, British Columbia, Canada, Nigeria, and the Caribbean. And the three barriers that we really looked at were really just gender roles and, at their core, it's been a man's world, or somebody that's been a man's always sat in this role, or they've always looked like this or sounded like this. So just providing that education around that, the mutual understanding that people come from diverse backgrounds, different value sets, and making sure that we're just very open and ask great questions regarding that. And then promotional and financial opportunities to all. So whether that is a leadership position in a club, at the district level, at the cabinet level, or beyond, that women are getting the same thought and consideration that a man would. And then things we talked about to be able to solve some of these problems, and definitely not overnight, but just continuing to provide education and training just like we're on today. Something that we talked about is creating opportunities to proudly identify. So having those individuals that come from a different value set, or look different or sound different, to be able to have them feel really proud in the skin that they're in, no matter what the room is. Removing some of those physical barriers. We see this more in the company, or in the countries, maybe not in the United States as much, but providing options like a hybrid option, providing options where childcare isn't a barrier for them to be involved in the club at the levels. Removing financial barriers, exploring new tools that are out there, like we've talked about Zoom, AI, different things to be able to help, and then sharing across clubs and opportunities just like this, what's working for you.
Fantastic, Randy. Thank you so much for sharing, and to everyone for sharing all those great ideas as well. All right, Colleen, last but not least, let's talk and hear about what your group covered when it comes to volunteer equity in leadership.
Excellent. And what a very personal discussion most of us shared in ours, because this is our organization, our passion. So people were very open, and thank you to the group for that. We addressed, our group also consisted of people from Canada, India, South Africa, and the US. And if I missed you all, I'm sorry, tried to catch you in the chat for that. First, we addressed kind of the internal processes of Lions as a barrier, in the fact that we're not always set up in leadership positions to transfer them on to the next. So establishing new positions was one of the solutions that one of our members had. Creating a leadership position that focused on poverty, and an issue that really impacts women's, we might say, in a bad proportion. So that was very interesting, and it created opportunities for service and also grew membership greatly for the club, balancing out those numbers between men and women, and also probably a lot of socioeconomic diversity in the club. When we reach out into communities that are less advantaged, we draw some really great members. The other barrier that we found was really a lack of confidence in ourselves, and that in itself, a lot of us share, and a lot of us, that's why we come to a volunteer group and we gather that support. That's a cultural kind of barrier, I think, that we all find, and in our different countries as well. Building up of women, support of other women being very important, being yourself, as Sangeeta had initially said. One of the solutions there is communication of awareness of opportunities. And one very interesting one was patience. Sometimes you have old guard, and sometimes you need to let the old guard go. Thank you, group.
Wow, that patience and just so many great takeaways. Patty, I am going to turn it back over to you to give us some more ideas. If you didn't take any ideas yet about how you can impact your gender equity in your community and with your Lions or Leos Club, Patty's got some great ideas of how we might go forward with a prepackaged piece, if you will. Patty?
Thank you very much. You know, one of the things that we did this weekend at Lions Day at the UN New York was we unveiled the winner of the new Peace Poster, the new winner of the Peace Poster contest and our Peace Essay winner. And these are standing programs that you can just download from our Lions International website and use, you know, anytime you want in your community. And it really helps us to start conversations about peace. You know, the theme this last year was Peace Begins With Me. Let's hear what our winner says.
大家好，我是王淑文。作品都很优秀，我也很荣幸获得这份殊荣。同时，我也会向他们学习。在这里有许多要感谢的，首先要感谢国际狮子协会、中国狮子协会大连代表处和大连德龙服务队。特别要感谢的是海滨美校。我从小就特别喜欢绘画，并在这里学习了7年多的时间，回忆点滴都是满满的收获与骄傲。要感谢每位教过我的老师。我会继续热爱绘画，并用画笔传递更多的美好。
You know, to say that she will use her brush to continue to share her talent. You know, all of us have ways that we share talents or our experiences, and I think each of us can do that. And, you know, recently, you know, we talked about how do we get this back to the club? And in our clubs, we're all members in our families, in our other community groups, in our Lions or Leos. We're all just people. And I love what our Peace Essay winner said. If we believe that everyone is equal in dignity and rights, we need to learn to stop judging or being afraid of other people because they look different to us, or we see them as not of the same value. I strongly believe if we could all close our eyes when we meet people, even if this was figuratively, there might be a chance we could get to know people before we judged them. Then we might just achieve peace without limits. Words of wisdom from an 11-year-old from New Zealand. And so if you're now thinking about what am I going to do? What am I going to carry forward out of this rich conversation today? And you're not sure where to begin. Well, begin perhaps with our Peace Poster contest, which we're now launching for the next year, as well as the Peace Essay contest, because that is part of what's important. I saw in the chat, we didn't have enough time. Our conversation was so rich. Well, let's carry it forward. Let's share it with people who weren't with us today. So think about this. What really stood out for you today? Maybe it was comments. Maybe it was just the chance to have the conversation. What actions can you take to create more equity in your sphere of influence? How do you spread this conversation and the possibilities? And how can we, as Leos and Lions, continue to be leaders in our communities, our workplaces, our conversations around peace? So let's keep the momentum going. Let's commit to equity, not just today for an hour and a half, but every day. And put your inspirations into thought. I'm sorry, put your inspirations, which lead to your thoughts, into actions and create opportunities to promote gender equity right where you are or within your digital footprint. So I want to thank you for your engagement, for your insights, and most of all, for your dedication to building a more just and inclusive and peaceful world. Now, before you go, we have some invitations for you, some upcoming events, and I'd like to bring Jody back to talk about those. Jody, join me here.
Excellent, Patty. I would love to. Let me add myself back to the screen with you, but I'm more importantly going to start sharing some slides with you of upcoming events you might want to get involved with. Let's start with, how do we keep this conversation going? We only meet 4 times a year. And as Patty said, this is a daily activity we need to be working on to build peace in our communities, one person, one community at a time. So let's keep this conversation going. We have a WhatsApp chat that's all about the conversation about peace for you to share your thoughts, your ideas, and the activities you're participating in. So with that, let's move on to some actual events that are coming up. And I'm going to drop all of the links for all of these into the chat at once, and then we'll review them. Patty, do you want to talk briefly while I'm doing this about our next event?
Yes, I am. I'm excited. So we know you're all going to go away. You're going to have impact. You're going to do things. You might just be having these conversations around the dinner table, but you might be doing them in the workplace. You might organize a space, virtual or physical, where these conversations can happen. You might take action. You might decide to, lobby local governments. I have no idea where the limit is on your innovation, because I haven't found it yet. But whatever you're doing, we want you to capture that. Take pictures, take photos, share your social media posts, and save those posts, because we want you to populate our Talking Peace WhatsApp group with all these pictures of the different activities you do to promote gender equity. And out of that, we hope to create some beautiful visual collages of what individual impact in local communities collectively becomes when the world is in conversation. So capture what you're doing, share the photos, the posts into our Talking Peace WhatsApp group, because on June 22nd, we're coming together. We've just shifted the time a bit to 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So 8 p.m. And come prepared for, if it's evening for you or if it's morning, Maxine, come prepared anyway, for a gala of celebration about what we really can achieve all around the world in our diverse communities when we work together with one vision for peace and equity. So we're going to celebrate all of what you've been doing, and we're going to invite so many of you to share your celebratory stories and raise a toast, have a sociable with all of you on June 22nd. But Jody, I think you've got a few other announcements as well.
I do. And then we have a world premiere for just our attendees today of something coming up for the telethon. So hold tight and we'll get there. Just a few other events coming up. I would like to highlight that on Sunday, April 6th, a week from today, I believe that is, we have our next conversation of Marketing Lions. And this event on Sunday, April 6th is focused on how we use service plus fun to grow our impact in our communities. That is going to be at 9 a.m. Central Time, Chicago, which is GMT -5. The link to register is in the chat window, in your chat pane. Next up, at the end of April, on April 27th, so often, and we at Lions Virtual and so many people are promoting that we should be using LinkedIn to market our Lions clubs and the service we do and invite others to join us in both. But we haven't really given you a lot of information about what LinkedIn is or how it might be used. Well, that's all going to change on Sunday, April 27th, when we come together for a speed learning event. Speed learning is where we take 10-minute segments and give you a taste for what a topic is about, so you can learn from there and increase then some baseline knowledge and then build your knowledge out on your own. So speed learning on April 27th will be all about LinkedIn. And then last but not least, I'm going to talk about our telethon that's coming up. This, believe it or not, is the 5 annual global telethon and a global celebration of service. And I'm going to turn it over to Daniel right now, because Daniel is working on, and our videographer is working on creating a whole series of videos for us for this. Daniel, would you like to share with us, as we close out today's event, one of the premieres of a video that will be appearing in the telethon?
Absolutely. So just 3 weeks ago, Lions from over 10 different countries in the world got together in Morocco. And one of the services that they did there is very, very germane to this conversation that we're having. They visited a boarding school of young women in Morocco, and I want to show you all for the first time ever, and we had, a whole lot of people on this call were there, but this is why we do what we do.
Hello everybody, we're here today at Meknes Welili in a boarding school hosting more than 200 girls. The school is in the mountains. Our club, Meknes Welili, is hosting the Global Service Week to help the girls and give them essentials as like PGs, shoes and sanitary items.
And we're at a school where girls come so they can stay in school. They have to board here because they live so far away from any other opportunity for education. And so they're not near their families or their support system. And in order to keep them in school, it's the simple gestures of kindness, like giving them hygiene supplies, clothes for the cold season, and warm shoes, which we're handing out today. And seeing these girls excited about the opportunity just to be in school makes me feel so proud to serve.
I encourage all the Lions all over the world to do the same. I'm sure they're doing their best in all cities all over the world. Let's make together the change and help people in need. We are the Lions of Meknes and making our mark.
That, my friends, is, first of all, oh my, wow. What we do as Lions and Leos is change the world and make a difference and make our marks. That is one piece of a lot of amazing things we're going to see, and a lot of amazing inspiration and stories of Lions and Leos from across the world on June 5th during the telethon. With that, Patty, any last words?
Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your commitment. And if you can schedule nothing else between now and June 22nd, host a watch party for the telethon at the beginning of June. Invite your non-Lions, your Lions, your Leos, your non-Leos. Invite the people you care about, with whom you want to share your passion, to be a part of your virtual or in-person watch party for the telethon. And in the interim, keep well, stay safe, and make peace.